Gurubhyo Namaha. Thanks, Dr. Pai and Venkatesh and the Yoga Mysore group who invited me to address you all and talk about a little bit about Yoga Sutras. It's a very complex subject, Yoga Sutras. Anyway, I can tell you what I know about it in the next 45 minutes or so. I would make it this way. Unfortunately, you are not in direct contact, so to say, except through the screen you have in front of you. So every 5-10 minutes, I'll stop and ask for questions. If you have any questions within the framework of the talk you listen just before that, related to that, please ask me so I know that I'm making some sense and we can have more of a dialogue rather than simply one-way communication, as it were. Okay. Now, yoga is, as you know, is a very vast subject. Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, unfortunately, we do not know when Patanjali was around, probably 2000 years ago, 2500 years ago. Because you look at, if you look at Gita, Bhagavad Gita, at the end of every chapter it is said Yoga Sutra. Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Shu Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyan Yoga Sastre, it says. So there already 5,000 years ago, Krishna is talking, his talk has been codified as Yoga Sutra or Yoga Sastra, which implies that yoga is a science. The way that Krishna deals with it in Bhagavad Gita is a little slightly different from what Patanjali is talking about in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. So, however, the word yoga has been around even at the time of Buddha, because we know that Buddha, Sankhya Muni Buddha, tried to do some yoga and and he changed his approach to trying to find out who he was. Anyway, so yoga as a word has been around for a long time. And Patanjali says, Maharishi Patanjali is only a compiler of this yoga and not an author. There is no authorship to yoga. Like we say, there is no authorship to Vedas. Similarly, there are no authorship directly. We can say so-and-so has sat down and wrote. This is a very crypt compilation of 196 sutras by sage Patanjali, some about 2000 years ago. And a sutra is, as you know, is a one-liner, basically 1 line, 2 lines, maybe maximum. A gist of is a series of group of thoughts and input in 1 line. Remember our exam days in back in school and high school and college, which we have such cryptic messages for ourselves and we by heart that. Similarly, the cryptic message of anything we want to know about the evolution, about where mind comes in, what is the role of mind, what is mind, because in English language, mind is not properly defined. But here we have different aspects of mind and how they interact with us, with the real self, as it were, and how to get over it and how to get eternal peace. So these are a kind of presentation by these Yoga Sutra. Sutra, of course, as I said, is a thread. Sutra, word sutra comes from sutra, which is a thread on which we put all these manis, mani gana iva. Sutre mani gana iva says in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, he is a sutra, we are all mani ganas. Riding on the sutra, without the sutra will not be there. Anyway, so Yoga Sutra are 196 in number, and it has been divided into four different parts. There is Samadhi Pada. Pada is part or chapter, followed by Sadhana Pada. The third one is Vibhuti Pada. And the last one is Kaivalya Pada. See, these 4 padas make up the entire gamut of Yoga Sutras, 196 in number, as I said. So he looks at first, what is the problem with humans? We're all the time thinking we are we are either thinking about the future or we are resenting the past. We are never at the moment. This is captured very nicely by the Buddhists, and they say, okay, think about the present and not about the future or the past, because past you can't change, future is too far out there to predict. So you have to be in the current situation right now, what we are doing. You put your mind into what we are doing right now and concentrate on this rather than thinking, what happened? What happened in the last lecture? Oh my God, it was terrible. The chap there was asking all kinds of questions. These are coming to the mind. No, we have to be here now. And he introduces the concept of chitta. Now, mind has, as I said, is very nebulous concept. The concept doesn't exist in Eastern philosophy. We say there are 4 aspects of mind, which is well defined as chitta, manas, buddhi, and ahankara. These are all evolutes. Remember, evolutes of Prakriti. Prakriti is primordial nature. It is not nature as we see around us. All we see around us is modification of the Prakriti, which is primordial. And as per Yoga Shastra, it is Prakriti and Purusha are the 2 aspects that are there. And each person is a Purusha. There is a Purusha in each person, which is kind of equivalent to Atma, though it is not well defined in yoga literature like that. It is equivalent to Atma in the Vedantic literature. So the Purusha is associated with Prakriti. When I'm talking, I'm using hopefully my chitta, a little bit of my manas, and hopefully my buddhi. The buddhi is being discriminative faculty. They're all related to the brain function, which can be related to some of these aspects. So chitta is basically, so the first simply says, let us talk about Yoga Sutras. Now what I'm going to do is, I've just picked up maybe about 20 sutras from this, and I'm going to present this to you. Okay. So what is yoga? The second sutra says, Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga, Chitta Vritti Nirodha. That is, it is very simple to understand this. The way I explain is, Chitta Vritti Nirodha, the vrittis of Chitta, yoga is to Nirodha, stop the vrittis of Chitta. Okay, that's the only way of telling it, because all its direct translations are wrong. Because there is no equivalent of chitta in English, there is no equivalent of vrittis in English, and of course there is now yoga is an English word. So yoga chitta vritti nirodha is the second sutra in Patanjali Yoga Sutra. It says to block the patterns of chitta is yoga, or to let the chitta disappear. Now, what is chitta? Chitta is basically, as I said, a part of an aspect of mind where you keep on regurgitating your thoughts. That is bringing back agitation, vomiting, actually, in common English. It is vomiting. So we are vomiting our thoughts all the time. What happened yesterday? What happened the day before? My wife suddenly asked, what you said 3 days back. I said, I don't remember what I had for breakfast. You asked me what I said 3 days back. No way. I don't understand. Because we are not looking at now, what it is now. But we are, of course, everything is related to past and hopefully to the future. But we should not linger and think on and analyzing what has happened. So that chitta must come under control. It is not under control, but it must be simply wiped out. Because that is the one which gives us imbalances. Also in the so-called psychosomatic problems. I'll talk about it later as we go on to second pada. The psychosomatic problems is basically because the chitta is all the time active. Now, if you look at, it is the evolution, the best way of finding out about chitta is to look at your pet dog, or a small child, 6-month-old child, or one-year-old child. when you, even if you hit a dog, it'll come back to you instantaneously. You said, go away to the dog. He knows you're angry with him for some reason, whatever, because you're angry with somebody else. You're putting it on the dog. But immediately it'll come back to you because it is not analyzing what you said. He is my master, I like him. That's all it is. Similarly, a child, little child is saying, you shout at him. The fellow smiles, what do? You can't do anything but smile. So they don't have chitta. A little child doesn't have chitta. It takes a while for the child to come. As it grows, maybe 8 months, when somebody can do an analysis and look at it and see. As they grow, at some point, slowly the chitta comes up and he says, you're angry, so I'm not going to talk to you. I'll go to my room. It goes off. There, he has got the chitta. So that is, and then it grows. And that takes over the life of us. So yoga is to chitta vritti nirodha. That's a great one. Okay. I have to look at my neurons are dying, as you know. All our neurons are dying. Actually, after 5 years, this happens. Tata, why should you do this? Immediately gives an answer. Tata drishtuhu swarupe avasthanam. Tata drishtuhu swarupe avasthanam. Drishtuhu is a person who is looking. The person who is looking inside me is now clearly seen. He is in his own self. He is not, there is no covering. He doesn't have a response, but there is a covering on him. That is Purusha. Purusha, as I said, is self with a capital S, or you call Atman. But I'm not going to use the word which is not relevant or which is not used by Patanjali, and that is Atman. I'm not going to use that, but Purusha is the one who uses it. So this Purusha is covered with all kinds of coverings on top. We have to, and there are basically, because of Chitta being very active, we don't look directly from Purusha outside. We look through these coverings and they change our mental formation and interaction and the work, ethics, etc. So when you stop this Chitta activity with Chitta through yoga, then Drishtuhu Swarupe Avasthanam. He is in his own self and he is able to look at the world in a different way. That's why you look at, for example, just look at the eyes of Ramana Maharishi. You don't have to look at anywhere. You know that he has a self and he's looking through the self. If you have a picture of these great people, Ramana Maharishi or other people like that, your own guru, then you know that you will be always calm in their presence because they are looking through their self directly from Purusha. What happens otherwise? Vritti sarupyam itaratra. So otherwise, the Purusha is only looking to vrittis. Vrittis meaning modification. So all the modification of Chitta comes through and you are interacting with the world usually because of these, through these vrittis. And the vrittis has been classified as painful and not painful. Now I was just a few minutes back, I was thinking, if Patanjali has stopped his Yoga Sutra at this point, it would have been great. It would have been wonderful. Oh my God. 3 sutras, I can get it by heart in half an hour and give lectures and lectures on this. But unfortunately, he has to put another 193 sutras after that and makes our life pretty complicated. Because Yoga Sutra is not for talking, basically. Yoga Sutra is for doing. It's like I was thinking, the example comes to my mind is telling a 4-year child what life is about. He will not understand or she will not understand this. So we have to go through this process of doing yoga, of doing asanas, pranayama, all the other things we're going to talk about, and come to a point where say, okay, the clarity comes on its own. But that will take a long time. So we are putting a basis. Suddenly you thought, okay, I'm going to write about, let us see what happens with all these vrittis and how to understand the vrittis and how to get over these vrittis. And he has given all kinds of different ways of getting into the chitta vritti that we're talking about. Actually, anything that you do is a vritti. I am looking at you, you're looking, you're listening. There is a disturbance outside. I don't know if you're hearing. There's a light going on. There's a power cut. Somebody is calling your name. All these are related to vrittis. So you're not doing anything from the Purusha's point of view. Purusha is always covered with this vrittis coming through. Now, can we be without vrittis? Well, not possible, because you're in a life, you're doing something, you want to have a cup of coffee, you go someplace, either buy a coffee or make a coffee in your home, and all these are vrittis. And you're sleeping. No, I'm sleeping. No, that is also vritti, because you have dreams. Maybe you have dreamless sleep, but dreamless sleep is not yogic sleep. It is simply a jada samadhi. So that's also vritti. So he has categorized almost every single item that you can think of as a part of vritti. And that is why, and how do we get over this? We have to think about it, think about the methods that we'll talk about in a while, and say, and abhyasa vairagyabhyam tan nirodha. He said nirodha first, chitta vritti nirodha, the second sutra. Now the nirodha, that is, that getting over that is through abhyasa and vairagya. Abhyasa is practice, vairagya is, what do you say? I have to say vairagya is vairagya. Great. Okay. Vairagya is what vairagya? You got to be unattached. You got to be away from everything. You do the work. This, very interestingly, the same words are being used by Sri Krishna when Arjuna asked the question. Arjuna says, I can't control my mind. He doesn't use the word chitta, he uses manas. He says, abhyasa vairagya abhyanta nirodha. Abhyasastu kaunteya vairagyesu grihyate. You have to have abhyasa and vairagya. These are two wings to the bird, and if you want to soar in the land of yoga, then you have to have these two active. First is abhyasa, second is vairagya. Vairagya is most important. That is, you're not attached to things. People come and people go. Like Buddha said, the lady came with a dead child in her hand. Somebody said, Buddha will release, bring back your child back to your life. And she goes to Buddha, put the child on his feet and say, give back the life to the child. And Buddha says, okay, I'll do that. But no, one thing. Amma, you go to a place, to a house, get me some rice. I'll bring back your child to life. Oh, that's it? No, wait, let me finish it. You go to the house, ask for, that house must not have seen death anytime. From a house like that, you get a handful of rice and bring it back. Of course, you know the result, So this happens that we should not be overtly attached. Of course, we want to help people. Of course, we want to do things. We want to be positive. We want to impact the society in a positive way. However, if things are not to our liking, you need not be worried about it. You do your best. So that is a vairagya. So abhyasa means constant practice, and vairagya is the being away from emotionally responding. Again, chitta comes into play. So, and the highest vairagya is to find out, to understand that Prakriti and Purusha are different. Chitta is related to, I told you earlier on, Chitta is related to Prakriti, and Purusha is different. So what is yoga? Yoga is separation of Prakriti and Purusha. You have to cleanse. You don't have to clean the Purusha. Purusha is always clean, but take out the coverings in the form of vrittis, which comes from Chitta. So you take it away, the purity of the person, Purusha, is already there. Then you can experience it. No, more importantly, others will experience it, that you have it. So that is, and he goes on to talk about various types of samadhi. Why this is called samadhi pada, because samadhi is is the higher states of consciousness, where you slowly look at this and come through with various methods. One of the methods very interestingly talks about is Ishvara Pranidhanadva, which takes several ways of doing it. He introduces concept of Ishvara Pranidhana, which is, as per our Acharya, Krishnamacharya, Yogacharya Krishnamacharya, you know him, you know about him. It is those 7 sutras that follows that talks about Bhakti Yoga. That's what he says. There is Bhakti Yoga, which is in the first chapter, talking about how to get over chitta vrittis. That is total surrender to God. So you have to have a concept of God. Doesn't matter what concept, who your Ishtadevata is, and surrender to him completely. This is one way of getting over chitta vrittis. If that happens, automatically other things happen that the sutras talk about. So, and okay, now is a good time to ask for questions. Do you have anybody having? I know you. Some of you have.
No, it is better to have it in the last.
No, to go on. It's okay. At last, everybody will forget what I said.
Okay,
So
then if anybody wants to ask 1 or 2 questions, you can please just unmute yourself and
yeah,
speak, please.
Hi, sir.
Yeah.
Hi, sir. You told the Patanjali Yoga Sutra divided into 4 padas. So, can you repeat that? Samadhi padas.
Samadhi pada, sadhana pada, vibhuti pada, and
Kaivalya pada.
Kaivalya pada. Pada means
Kaivalya, sir.
Kaivalya.
Okay, okay.
Kaivalya pada.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Namaskaram, Chittappa. Jayanti here. Chitta, how to remove Chitta? Just now you gave the answer is to go through Bhakti Margam. That is a way to forget Chitta, va?
That is one of the ways.
One of the ways. Okay.
I have highlighted because look at it as a Bhakti Marga, but Krishnamacharya has said this is Bhakti Marga.
Thank you, Chittappa.
See, the idea of this talk is give you only a few ideas here and there.
Okay.
And you have to go. I'll give you some references. You want write to me.
Okay.
I'll give you. You have to sit down and read it because it is a very complex subject.
Yes.
It cannot be, like I said, a child cannot know about the life or the world.
Okay.
He has to go through. Similarly, we have to read books and analyze it. So,
yes, okay.
One way of looking at it as a Bhakti Sutras, about 7 of them,
Okay.
which starts with Ishvara Pranidhana. Okay.
Hello, sir. It's Shilpa here. Can you please repeat Kaivalya Pada? What is Kaivalya Pada?
Padas again. Are you asking so far?
So just now you said it's divided in 4 padas.
It is nothing but 4 chapters. So Kaivalya Pada is the last chapter of Patanjali Yoga Sutras.
Yes. 4 chapters, each one has a heading. I gave you the heading. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Guruji, namaste. Why these padas are in sequence? Samadhi pada, sadhana pada, and vibhuti and kaivalya pada. Is there any reason for this sequence,
Good question.
one after the other?
Good question. If you look at my book on yoga, I've not done it. I've changed the order. If you look at my Gita book, I've changed the order because we are common people. We are not highly, educated people. Educated meaning in Shastras, in our ancient Shastras. But if you look at Shastra point of view, there's a reason why he does it. But if you look at our point of view, it is all confusing. Even Gita is totally confusing. Why should chapter 3 come after 2? There is no connection within 2. Or 4 after 3, etc., etc. So we can, if you want, I'm not saying buy my book, but I have redone it so that it flows in a linear fashion because we are all linear people. We are not Arjuna sitting there. Arjuna had a problem at a particular point of time. At our time, he was a highly educated person. He may be Kshatriya, he's gone to school, he knows what he's talking about. So the whole thing is confusing because, the 12th chapter is Bhakti Yoga. Why put Bhakti Yoga 12th chapter? And then 13 starts something else. So there is a confusion here. So anyway, that is why some books are written in a different form. My book is especially written in a different format. But first chapter talks about different type of mental activities that are going on in Samadhi. And that is very important. First, understanding what are the mental fluctuations and how to turn it as it were. Putting a dam here, a dam there. The water is flowing in different directions and slowly come into Samadhi levels of Samadhi. Nirbija Samadhi, Sabija Samadhi, Nirvikalpa, Savikalpa Samadhi, all these Samadhis are introduced. Because those days people know about these things. So whereas we do not know. If you look at my book, I start with Sadhana Pada because sadhana is what we are doing. Unfortunately, we stop with sadhana. Sadhana being asana and maybe a little bit of pranayama. And thought as same meditation, whatever that is. Anyway, so thank you for the question. Let's move on.
And I have got one question. I like the example you have given, the child doesn't have chitta.
Yeah.
It is not a developed, what do you mean to say?
Yeah.
But it should have at least earlier janmas chitta should be there, something like that.
Maybe chitta in different form, but not express it in a way.
Okay, right.
What you see is that's what happened, right? The child comes back to you, a 6 months old child. You are, it is naughty, and you give a little pinch or whatever it is, she'll cry, and then when you look at it, she'll come and hug you. Then you have no choice but to hug the child.
Yes.
So it doesn't carry on that feeling. See that you have been not nice to me, so I'm going to take it out on you.
In other words, there is no storage.
Yeah.
In other words,
there is no regurgitation. There may be a little bit of storage. We do not know at subconscious level. There may be. You keep on doing it, things might happen out of control. But basically, there is no regurgitation. It's not coming out. Either storage is poor or recall is poor. Basically, recall is not there. See, memory has all type of things. It goes my memory, and then there's a recall, and then I express it. Right? That's the way that normally it functions. So in this case, whatever it is, for example, I have a grandson who loses his teeth every day, and he pulls it out. How is it he pulls it out and I'm not able to pull it out? And you go to a doctor and he has to give you an injection and he has to tell you stories and he has asked you to see somewhere else, suddenly pulls it out. Because I don't know, I think those nerves are not properly formed, so he doesn't feel the pain. Because he doesn't feel the pain. Otherwise, he will not pull it out, right?
Okay,
so
fine. We can proceed further.
Anyway, as far as coming back to chitta, the regurgitation, the recall is definitely very poor or is not expressed. So a child or a pet dog or a dog or something, they don't have chitta. Anyway, okay.
I have a question, Chittappa, I have a question in this regard. So as we get older, is this something we should try to imbibe? Like you talked about the child not recalling. So is it something we should try to imbibe?
That's why we are trying in Yoga Sutra. You don't want chitta. I don't want to evaluate you on you now, depending on what you said me this morning. Okay? Don't tell this to your teacher because he's going to correct your paper. Other than that, you don't carry these feelings with you. Whatever happened there, that happened at that point because of a certain reason, okay, fine. You forget it. But don't carry it around because that carrying is, you're going to express it against somebody at some point, which is not necessary. More importantly, it is going to affect you. That is why, as I said, psychosomatic is because you're carrying this chitta and its various vrittis, modifications, and you are expressing it, or if you're not expressing it, you are suppressing it. I want it to be eliminated. In other words, it should be like, what is it called? Water on a leaf, lotus leaf. It's there for a while, it'll go up. But a little bit of breeze, it goes away. So it should be not connected to no time sequence. I know I'm going to say this to you because you did it 2 days ago. No. So that's why be in moment. You evaluate, don't evaluate people, don't react to people. You simply act like you normally act in our, for example. It always comes. These things come up in life, in family. Somebody says, why you are talking to the person so nicely, not to me? These questions come, right? Somebody is smiling, okay. So this is because you're carrying certain things. So the idea is, let us not worry about it, but we are not talking about, the first step is towards, that's why charity starts at home. That's where the problem is. So let the charity start there. So you don't work with chitta within the family. You say, okay, I will not use my chitta within the family. In other words, no evaluating. Depending, yesterday I went to a restaurant, you didn't want me to spend money. No, don't evaluate. Now you do what needs to be done as part of as my duty, as anybody else's duty. Okay, so chitta vritti nirodha is is a starting point of yoga. Okay, let's move on to sadhana pada. Sadhana is to do something. Tapas swadhyaya isvara pranidhanani kriya yoga. It starts with kriya yoga, defines kriya yoga, and goes on. We don't have a whole lot of time, so I'm going to skip a few things and go to. And one of the basic things is avidya. Here also it talks about avidya, which is ignorance. Ignorance or not having vidya. Okay, avidya is not having vidya. Towards what is Purusha? That is what ultimately it is. Ignorance will constitute the most basic aspect, and that will be the final one to tackle with. There are other things like, asmita, I feeling, likes and dislikes, and fear of death. He constitutes 5 of them as a cause for pain. Normally, ignorance, I feeling, liking, disliking, and fear of death. They are called kleshas. These kleshas, all of them must be resolved to avidya, and once you get over avidya, everything falls off. Okay, avidya, as I said, is a root cause, and that is confusing Purusha with Prakriti. Purusha is Purusha, Prakriti, Prakriti. I'm talking again from yoga point of view, not Upanishad point of view. Okay. After saying all this, what he says is, okay, now the kleshas, these kleshas or affectations can be gotten rid of, and one of the means of doing it is through Ashtanga Yoga. This is where we are talking about the importance of asanas and pranayama coming. Okay, where is Ashtanga Yoga? Come on. So Ashtanga Yoga is simply one of the best books, simplest books written. May not be very profound, but very practical. Is Vivekananda's Raja Yoga. Please buy it. It is very less expensive than other books. It contains a lot of very interesting aspects about Prakriti and Purusha and Prana and everything else. And he comes to Ashtanga Yoga very nicely. And he also interpreted the Sutras in a very simple way. Okay. Now, Ashtanga Yoga starts with Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi, Ashta Angani. So these are various stages of practice. Unfortunately, again, okay, the 8 parts of the yoga discipline. The 5 yamas are non-violence, truth, honesty, abstinence, non-possession, Ahimsa, etc. So Ahimsa is the most fundamental one. In other words, by word, deed, or any other way, you cannot have cause of suffering to any other being, including plants and trees and whatever it is. If you want to take a stone, that's why when we cut a stone, we have to get the permission to cut the stone. When we enter a field, you don't enter with the chopper. You go barefooted. If you want to take rice out of the field, you have to get the permission of the rice and the devatas there and cut the field. So this kind of ahimsa is most fundamental, and it has to be extremely well practiced in every aspect. Now, people always in the West, they say, oh, ahimsa is okay, but eat is okay. No, it is not. If you want to follow the path of yoga, you cannot eat meat, period. There's no question about it. So you can't come up with the West, they have all kinds of excuses for somebody else killing. No, somebody else killing, you are making them kill because you're buying it. So that is the most fundamental is ahimsa. And satya is another important aspect. You have to practice satya. You cannot be away from it. The niyamas, that is yama. Niyama is personal hygiene, like cleanliness, contentment, austerity, self-study, and Ishvara Pranidhana. Again, resignation to God, and his or her God's will be done. So these are two basic ideas. These are all Yama and Niyama, which are disciplines that we bring upon ourselves to follow a certain path of trying to understand nature as against our survival. Okay, and it goes on to say what is, for example, satya. Now, let's take an example. Satya is very, very important. After ahimsa, next is satya. Now, I'll give you a little example how this is comes to bear. Parenthetically, I'll say I'm not a great admirer of Gandhiji, but anyway, he was there. He did certain things. The last time he went to England to sign the papers with Attlee about independence to India, all the formalities over inside the room, and he came out to the street. Coming back to India, he stepped out of the room, came outside, and there were a bunch of reporters, British reporters, all the white people with pen and pencil in their hand, and a sheet of paper, and asking questions. And one reporter asked him, "You are so much against British. After all, we brought education to India, right?" Gandhi, it is instantaneously he replied. He didn't think about this. He said, immediately he said, no, we had a better education system in India before British came. And then walked away. And the people there, they laughed and then they noted down and brought it out as though, something sacrilegious has been said by Gandhi, or this, that, etc. Later on his way to India, Gandhi was thinking, what? I wanted to be taking only Satya. Why did I say this? What is the proof that we had a better education in India before the British came? Terrible. If it is not true, I want to withdraw the statement publicly, get an apology. Okay. It was in him all the time. He was thinking about it. After a few months, he was in Nagpur giving a lecture to a bunch of students, about 300 students there, giving a lecture about, about non-violence, etc. And he made an appeal to the student. Is there not one student here who will tell me whether I'm telling the truth or not in the statement I made to a reporter in England that we had a better education system in India? Would not one of you check this out and let me know? Because it is worrying me very much. I have to settle this. Okay. And then he finished the whole lecture. And one young man, maybe 25-ish, his name is Dharampal. Please note the name. Dharampal. listen to a lecture, he was so taken up by this statement. He said, I'm going to find out what the education system in India was in 1800. Before, in 1820s, the Macaulay, his ideas to education system he brought in, and the whole thing was absolutely catastrophe. Even today, we are suffering that, thanks to all these governments around and the people who are running the government. Anyway, Dhanapal said, okay, I'm going to find out. So he went to the National Library. Where is the National Library? Even today? Kolkata. Because Kolkata was capital. So they set up earlier to Delhi. So they set up National Library. He went to the National Library. And he came to a library in Chennai, which is called Kanimara Library, which has ancient meaning the British people reporting about England, about India, sorry. They kept meticulous diaries about what is happening in Chennai and roundabout, and in Orissa, in Kolkata, in parts of Nagpur, all over. And the education system, they are also written about what it was before they took over the education system. He found out, the percentage of people, students going to education Patasalas in 1800, before the British system was introduced in 1800 and earlier, the percentage of students were 95%. 95% of students of the eligible age went to school, of the age between about 7 and 13. After 13, 14, the girls will not go for obvious reasons. And later on, things happen. Okay. And then after 14, 15, the boys went to their father's profession. So in other words, what Gandhi said was true. Now, how is it possible? Now, it says that Satya Pratishta, there's a sutra which talks about it, 36th sutra, by the way. If you are talking only truth, you take a vow today, I will only talk truth next 5 years. This can happen. Whatever comes from your mouth will be only truth bearing. It will be, he is not predicting, it is not prediction of truth, but whatever, because the truth is a force, only within that force you'll be able to operate. Whatever comes will be only true. So this is the way that some of these, personal attitudes work. If you are fully in it, only truth comes out of your mouth. Okay, that is how we can explain this wonderful example, how this person can come out with the truth he didn't know about. Okay, now let's move on to Asana and Pranayama. So the first one is Yama and Niyama. Actually, the importance of Yama and Niyama is very often not understood. Unless you have Yama and Niyama, you cannot move on to Asana. Now, this is Ashta Anga Yoga. Anga means two ways of understanding it. Anga can be just a limb. Anga can be step. If it is a step, you have to go one step at a time. If it is limbs, all limbs grow together. Now the discussion is how to interpret Anga, Ashtanga Yoga. Now a classicist like Sri Krishnamacharya will tell you, you have to go one step at a time. You'll say, okay, Srinivasan, I went and met him once, want to learn yoga from him. Srinivasan, have you been following Yama? Yama. Well, Swami, sometimes I slip. Okay, you go and perfect your Yama and come back. How long should I be perfecting yoga? Yeah, short time, just for 5 years. Come back after 5 weeks. That was his instruction. I said, okay, I'm not going to, no way I'm going to meet it again. Similarly, Asana. His son was a close friend of mine, Chari. I asked him, Asana practice. Asana, my father will ask you to have Asana Siddhi. You must have Asana Siddhi. He will teach you on Asana he expects asana siddhi. Oh, right. What is asana siddhi? You have to maintain the asana for 2 hours, 42 seconds, 42 minutes. I said, what? 2 hours and 42 minutes. You have to be in one asana with steadiness and sukha. That's what the asana definition is, sukha and sthira. If you are sukha, if you are comfortable and steady in that asana for 2 hours and 42 minutes, then you have obtained asana siddhi. Then you can go to my father and ask him for next asana. I said, this way, I'm going to take another 200 years to 100 years to finish a few asanas. So I thought this is not going to be the right path for me. I have to do something else. So these are all steps that some people insist you should do it. At least Yama, Niyama, you should know about it. Kindly read a book. There are several books and get to know about it. Let us follow as much as possible.
Sir, you have got 5 minutes to conclude.
Yeah. So asana is very important from psychological point of view. Pranayama is important from, asana is very important from physiological point of view, the body. Pranayama is important from psychological point of view. It calms down your mind, and it also gives a link between prana and sarira. So prana can go through various parts of the body and cleanse and give life force to the cells. So our belief is prana is required for every cell. And that happens through prana, asana and pranayama. That is very important to maintain our health, both physical and mental health is required. That's why one of the latest books which I was asked to edit is Yoga for Mental Health. Where Nimhans is doing a lot of work in Bangalore, and they have put together a fantastic book on this. So, okay. So, asana pranayama. Then, pratyahara. There is a lot to talk about asana and pranayama. We'll do something. Pratyahara is withdrawing the senses into oneself. Dharana, dhyana, samadhi constitute inner yoga. That is, dharana is maintaining certain thoughts. Dhyana is complete immersion in the thought. Samadhi is when you lose yourself and be with an object of your meditation, as it were. And only one is aware. You're not aware that you are aware, but you're totally immersed into the object of meditation. That is samadhi. So these are three aspects which are very important. Inner yoga. So first we have first two Yama and Niyama, which are commitments. And I have to quote Dr. Pai. They are not, remember, they're not commandments. Commandments do not last. It's from outside. Commitments, I make a commitment. You make a commitment. Look, I'm going to do this. I'm going to follow Satya for the next 5 years. After April, after the, after doing our taxes, not now. Let's start from next year. These are commitments. They're very important. And then asana pranayama for my health, body and psychic health. Dharana, dhyana, samadhi is towards moving towards that kaivalya, that isolation of Purusha from Prakriti. This ultimately is the goal of yoga, that is isolation. Actually, very often, some yoga is when both are combined together. Yoga is separation of one from other, from the Purusha. Prakriti is taken away. The person is still in the Prakriti. The body is Prakriti. The Purusha is the Purusha, away from, different from, and eternal Purusha. So this is ultimately the culmination of yoga. And a couple of more padas are there. Somebody can take it up and go through this. Thank you very much again. Namaste.
Sir, you explained about in the Samadhi Pada regarding Yoga second sutra. And can you the 48 sutra Rudhambara Tatra Prajna, can you brief on that?
When the mind becomes finer and finer into different types of samadhi. Then you will reach the point is called Ritam Prajna. That is the purest form of knowledge. This, see, the Ritam is universal truth as against Satya. Satya is what was called
the origin of Satya is Rutam.
Transactional level, yeah, transactional truth. Like the example given is, the sun is rising in the east, right? This is Satya. No, there is no rising and going. Because in certain ways, it looks like so it is coming out of the west, out of the east. So that is Ritam. Ritam is, the original cause of sunrise. It is not sun rising, twisting and turning of all the, of the world and other planets that is causing this effect. So Satya is transactional, which is true, but Ritam is a higher truth which is beyond the transactional, it's universal truth. And that is where one reaches on doing some of these, going through different stages of samadhi. That is the Ritam Prajna, what you say.
Yeah, I have a question. What is exactly Kriya Yoga and the best book for Kriya Yoga?
Kriya Yoga, as per Yoga Sutras, is the threefold aspects I told you about. I don't remember. As in, what? Get by heart those sutras when you're 20-year-old and not when you're 80. Okay?
Tapas,
Swadhyaya, and Ishwar Pranidhana.
Yes. There, I know who is talking about. Okay, thank you.
Best book.
Students. Tapas, Swadhyaya, Ishwara Pranidhana, right?
Right.
This is Kriya Yoga as per Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Now, this book is an excellent book. Kindly do purchase this. Very simple.
4 chapters.
Institute of Yoga,